Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thank you for joining us here on the program. I'm trying to start each one of these programs a little differently so that you don't hear the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, my gosh, if you don't know when the programs are heard on the radio, I'll tell you a little bit later. If you don't know where the podcast can be found, I'll tell you a little bit later, or the video cast. I will also tell you a little bit later. If you would like to support this program, I'll tell you about that, how you can contribute to this program financially. But I'm going to tell you right now that we want you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s, where we encourage you to go within, because that's a very important message. And I'm sure that our guest on the program today will also have a little bit to say about that as well. And we thank you so much for being with us here on the program, folks, and for joining this conversation as we talk with our various guests. And today is a continuation of our dialogue, our conversation with the contributors to Mayhem To Miracles, published by sacredstoriespublishing.com. The book Mayhem To Miracles is available both through Sacred Stories and Amazon. And we are talking with about 11 or 12, I believe it's 12 of the contributors, and I believe there are a total of 30, that is similar to what we did back in January of 2019, when we covered the first of what is now 3 books. The first one was Chaos to Clarity, and then they had Crappy to Happy. I wasn't as fond of that title as I was the first, but I do like the third title, and it happens to be Mayhem To Miracles. And we have Laurie Walker, who is one of the contributing authors, and she has written a story, if you will, that was contributed to this particular compendium, I like to call it. And her story is entitled Mary Queen. We're going to find out what that story is about and her story. Laurie, thank you so much for joining us here on Tell Me Your Story.
Thank you so much, Richard, for choosing me as one of the authors on your show. It's just really, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're certainly glad that you're here. We also understand that you are fairly new to this process of promoting what it is that you have done and what you have contributed. And I find it very interesting, quite honestly, in terms of the process that you went through. And I'd love for you to tell us about that, specifically in terms of how and why you chose to express yourself through this particular book, Mayhem To Miracles, and your story, Mary Queen.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because there's a story behind the story.
There always is.
Yes, of course. So we got a couple of stories going on. Mary Queen is what I consider my real life guardian angel. She's my best friend. She helped me through 2 of the very darkest days of my life. And at the beginning of this year, she was very, very, very ill. 4 years ago, she had cancer, and she had part of her lung removed. And she's just really never been the same since. And so last Christmas, she had a fungal infection in her lungs, and she went downhill really, really fast. And I thought, we all thought that this was it, and this is, it's going to be over for her and us. And so I thought, Mary's going to pass away, and nobody's going to know. Like, they know that we're friends, but they don't understand what she did for me. And I write poetry. I've written poetry. So writing is kind of easy for me, but like I said, I don't do it professionally. So moving to a different part of the story is I am friends with the talent scout for Sacred Stories Publishing on Facebook. Her name is Sheena Mazza. And so I follow her, and they had a post about a story for Mayhem To Miracles. And I thought, I'm just going to write this for me. I'm going to see if this is something I can do. And if not, what's the big deal? At least I've written it. So I wrote it, and I asked one person about it, and that person didn't think that I should submit it. So I asked Gina if she would read it. And Gina and I were casual friends. We met 20 years ago in the printing industry here in Pittsburgh. So I valued her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her, I sent it to her. And the next morning she sent me a message on Messenger, a voice message. And she said, Laurie, it's 5 o'clock in the morning here. She lives in Nashville. And she said, and I just read your story and I'm crying. She said, it is absolutely so beautiful. And sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. She said, you need to share this because it will help other women heal.
Mm. And
so I submitted it. And I thought it was going to take a while, that we're going to be a lot of submissions. The very next day, they said, yes, please be a part of our book. There were a couple of revisions in the first round. They told me that I didn't talk enough about Mary. And so they wanted more information about her. And so I did that and, shortened this and that. And what I really loved about the editing was they changed very few of my original words. They changed sentence structure, trimmed the fat. They pieced together things that made sense. But very little of my words were changed. So I really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
So I submitted the story, and then I was in the emails and aware of the book launch, but I wouldn't say I didn't take it seriously. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh, this will be nice. And then when in September, when all the things started really ramping up for the media promotions, I started to get really excited. I thought, this is fantastic. It's all the new people that I'm meeting, like-minded people who will appreciate the story, and just knowing that if I can help one person, then it's all worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's usually how we want to look at it, is that if we can help if we just help one, that's the one drop in the still water, and then it ripples out from there. We have no control over that, but at least we have touched one person. By the way, I understand that one of the criterion for getting your story into one of these wonderful collections is that they have to empty about at least half of a Kleenex box. And I'm guessing that's probably what happened, but it's not necessarily that every single story has to be a tearjerker. But nonetheless, it's interesting too that I was actually I was being interviewed as one of the program hosts who is interviewing the authors of these stories. And of the four of us, I was the only one that hasn't submitted a story to any of these books yet. But I yammer away on my own program, and that's just fine. I want to talk a little bit more, of course, about Mary Queen, but I want to let our listeners know this is Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here with Tell Me Your Story Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., and Wednesdays with a special edition of Tell Me Your Story at 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. And of course, this special program with Mayhem to Miracles, published by the Sacred Stories Publishing Company, sacredstoriespublishing.com. We encourage you to go there to pick up a copy of any one or all three of these books and read the stories. They're to help us all to transform. And we're going to talk about that also with our special guest, Laurie Walker, here on Tell Me Your Story. We hope that you will also listen to the podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, iHeartRadio, Blueberry, Amazon Music, and there's a whole bunch of other places as well as going to YouTube. You can watch these videos on YouTube, and it's on YouTube. Tell Me Your Story. Richard Dugan, put that into the search. I'm sure it'll, boom, take you right there to the Tell Me Your Story channel. And you'll see on the banner across the top, it is the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, where we encourage you to go within and listen to that still small voice. Laurie, let me ask you in regards to Mary Queen. I'm going to guess that I'm not the only one that's done that, right?
Well, actually, she likes to be called the Queen.
The Queen. Tell me, who is this person? Who is this woman? Because part of me actually started thinking when I saw that Mary Queen, I'm thinking, is she talking about the mother of Jesus here? Or what is the reason why she liked Queen?
Oh, that's literally her legal name.
Oh, it is.
It is her legal name.
Wow.
I didn't realize that people didn't know that. No, that her last name is legally
Okay,
Queen.
Mary Queen. All right, so now we've got it. She gets all her mail, and I will bet you that the postal delivery person genuflects when they put it in the mailbox, just because they don't know. But how did you meet her, and when?
Okay, it's all in the story, which hopefully everybody will read. But I was only in my late 20s, and I didn't have a college education, and my husband at the time, we needed to work opposite shifts. So I started working at a convenience store because my son was little. My sister lived right next to the place where I worked. So eventually I got promoted a couple of times until I was a store manager. And Mary Queen applied for the night shift. She had just lost her husband, and she was having trouble sleeping. So she would have been perfect. She was absolutely perfect. And a couple other things about Mary is that Mary is 20 years older than I am. She's a beautiful, beautiful, I call her my beautiful black guardian angel. And that's part of the story too, that you'll read in there, that love doesn't see color, it only sees more love. And I think it's a beautiful element of the story as well. But so that's how we met. And the first major point of our relationship is, to me, the focus of the story. There's a lot of background or whatever, but at the moment where she helps me the first time is where our relationship begins, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
Now, you have already let us know that you have had a first husband.
Yes.
Okay. I've also had not a first husband. I have had a first wife. I'm curious as to where you are now. Is it just number two?
Oh,
or nobody right now?
I'm trying to answer this quickly. Let's see. The first husband not only lasted a year. The story about Mary Queen is my second husband. And then now, let's just say I have a friend. We've known each other 18 years, and it's this crazy, fun, just friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not seeing anybody else. I'm not seeing anybody else. And we just, I don't know, we get each other. We like to hang out. We both think that we're 22.
Yeah. Good luck telling your bodies that. I'm 61 and I still say I'm 17, you good for nothing. And I keep that in mind when I am trying to do things that I really would be wiser not to do. So I can relate to what you're talking about. It's real interesting too, as we move through our years. I used to listen to, well, I still do, but there were lyrics from a particular song that basically said, it turns me on to think of growing old. And that was when I was 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, because I used to think, that's going to be so neat, doing all the things that the adults are doing, and I've gotten along the way in my 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, which I think really? I've been through 40 of these decades since my teen years. And there have been times when, I wish I was 15 again. But I would say overall, I'm glad I am where I'm at. When you think about the years that you have spent, whether it was with your first husband or this friend. And by the way, when you described that, what came to me, and I wish I could remember the name of the movie. It's a new movie, of relatively new in the last year or so, with Robert Redford and Jane Fonda. And it's a movie about a couple, two people who both of their spouses have passed on. And she is lonely, but not lonely for another partner, relationship, intimacy. She doesn't like sleeping alone. So that's what he comes over to do. He just comes over and sleeps with her, so she is not alone. There's no sex involved. Although as the time goes on, of course, the relationship actually does develop into something more of a loving relationship. Maybe not intimacy, but there is a deeper connection there. And it's just one of the sweetest stories. And that's what I thought of when you started saying that I have this friend and we have fun together, because that's what they did.
Well, I thought about that too. He would probably never allow me to do it. But if there's another story, if there's another book, I have a love story.
Oh, wow. It's fabulous.
And I probably shouldn't say this, but I can't help it. My friend is a kickboxer. He's a 3-time champion. And I don't laugh, don't judge. I have a nickname for him because I met him when he was 27 and I was 34. And we met at a club, and he was just 6'2", just standing there. And at the time he had long hair, but it was really, really beautiful. And so I nicknamed him the Adonis, and nobody was ever supposed to know that. And then, when we finally both started talking, I told him his nickname, and he absolutely loved it. And then years later, I was like, why do you keep coming around? Like, why do you keep hanging out with me? And he just smiled, and I go, oh, I know. I had you at Adonis.
I love that. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. We're talking here on the program today with Laurie Walker, and we're going to continue our conversation here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, and we hope you will stay with us. And you're listening to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and thanks for staying with us here on the program as we talk with Laurie Walker, one of the contributors to the Sacred Stories Publishing book entitled Mayhem to Miracles. She is one of 12 that we are interviewing. What the heck? They're kind of like the Mayhem to Miracle apostles, sharing the stories that are transforming lives left and right. And it's part of a 3-book series, at least at present it's 3. It could expand. I have a feeling it will. They will come up with another cute little title, disaster to happy kind of thing title. But it's part of a 3-book series, Chaos to Clarity, which we carried 12 of the authors. Then there was Crappy to Happy, and now there's Mayhem to Miracles that we're talking with these authors. And Laurie Walker is my guest. Laurie, let me ask you first of all some protocol questions. First of all, your website presence? Do you have one, and how would people get in touch with you?
I don't have a website, but I do. A friend of mine and I created a virtual book club, and the name of it is Guided by Grace Virtual Book Club. It's on Facebook. So you can look us up there, and hopefully you'll join the club. Mm-hmm. Our email is on there. You could message me, and that's how you can get through. So.
All that good stuff. Well, tell me a little bit more about the work that you do. Now, I guess I should preface that. Well, it's not preface anymore because I've already asked you the question. But I'll preface it anyway by just telling you that, of course, this program, Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, we're giving people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make their dreams come true. We're looking for those new ways of living. Just look around you. The old ways just don't work. And each one of us is finding those new ways of living for ourselves as individuals. And when I talk about my life and I talk about some of the things that I do in my life, that's just from me. I am not putting that on anybody. I'm not telling you, okay, Laurie, you've got to believe this, or I'm sorry, but you're just not getting in the front door. But what about you? And I guess maybe a good way to put it is your inner life. Talk to us a little bit about your inner life, your philosophy of life, and for that matter, how that all started, where you began as a child in terms of how you were raised.
Wow, this is so interesting. Okay. I'm the youngest of 5 children. So I talk about this in the story too, is that I always felt like the one who was left behind, the one that nobody took seriously, just people, I would just watch everybody and I would just see where I fit in or watch people change their emotions. Like one minute you're the cute little sister, the next minute you're, get away from me, kid, you're getting on my nerves. So it was, I've always had to evaluate a situation to see where I fit in. And I'm an empath. I'm a people pleaser. So I just try and be nice and do the right thing and, just make people happy. So let me think of the next part of the question was, so after the divorce, I went inside. Like I've always loved to read. I mean, that's just my thing. So after the divorce, I asked myself, okay, that didn't work out. What can I do differently? And I just dove into book after self-help book, and then it turned into more spiritual books. Because it's just, I always wanted to know more. There's more out there. What's out there yet? And even at this point in my life, I'm like, there's more. There's so much more. So one of the things that led me to where I am today is probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I met 2 women who have a place called The Energy Connection. And I thought, well, let me go check this out. I went for a meditation and it was fantastic. And I didn't know anything about Reiki. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Reiki.
I actually am a Reiki master.
Yusui? Are you a Yusui?
I'm not sure what the derivation is, but it goes back to about in 2000 or 1999, actually, when I was trained. Well, both my wife and I were trained, but I don't remember the derivation therein.
Yeah, there's a couple of different founders or practitioners. So,
right.
But so I'm Yusui and I'm also Holy Fire, which is William Rand. But anyway, so I go innocently to this meditation, and the woman who owns the Energy Connection, her name's Kathy, she remembered me from our meeting, and she said, "Do you think that you have a gift?" And I go, "Oh, I don't have a gift." I go, "But I've always known that I'm different." And she goes, "That's good enough." Okay. So at the end of the meditation, she starts introducing me to everybody, and she's, I remember all of them, and she's like, "And this is so and so, and they're a Reiki master, and they're a Reiki master." I'm like, "What is this?" I'm like, "I hit the mother load of Reiki masters. This is insane. I need to know more." So as I was, I went through Reiki 1, 2, 3, and I met some other teachers. There's five teachers there right now. So I went through each one of them. I'm a jumper. I had to see what everybody was good at, or it was more about exploring. And one of the I clicked with them all. They're all beautiful in their own way, but one particular one, her name is Mia Versinko. She did a reading for me. She does it's Wisdom of the Oracle cards, and she did an entire year in advance, and it was on my birthday. So I try and do something special like that on my birthday. So me and I like kind of really clicked. And before that, I had told her about my book club Pittsburgh. I'm a founding member of Book Club Pittsburgh, where I know I'm going, wait, I'm mixing a bunch of stories.
It's all right.
Yeah. So she likes to read. So when we get to Guided by Grace, you'll see how that ties in. But so whenever I was going through everything at the beginning of this year, I had reached out to some of my teachers, Mia being one of them. And, I told her, because they didn't really know anything about me or my life. I'd never really opened up. And I was in so much grief. And I was just trying to process everything. And Mia reached out to me and, said, if you ever need to talk, then, please call me. So she had made a comment on something about Facebook about having a virtual happy hour because, with COVID and everything. And I'm like, hey, I'm down for that. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So she and I got together and we had that. And I don't think the book club idea was born there. I think it was more like, oh, we're really kind of getting to know each other now. Like it wasn't such a professional thing where she was a teacher and I was a student. It was more like, we'll never be equal. And I mean that on her side.
Right.
She's actually a medium and a Reiki master teacher and all these other things. But it was just nice to be level with somebody who understood you. So that was important. So at the beginning of the question, it was, where am I at? How am I doing things? And every experience has led me here. It was all those little things adding up that I didn't think I was doing anything. I was doing something small all the time, but was gaining all this experience and momentum. And I had said to Mia about these interviews and things, I said, I look really good on paper. I don't think that I've done all these things, but it's each one was just a little tiny step.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I learned fairly early on in my life was that there are no wasted steps, that everything that you are doing, somehow you may not see it right now, but somehow, some way fits into the grand scheme of your life as you are moving forward. I mean, I've been in radio for over 40 years, but I've also done a few other things along the way. I worked in a warehouse. I worked for a multi-level marketing company. I worked for a photo lab. That was early before I even got into radio, but that was one of my first jobs. My actual first job, I was a paper boy. Loved it. Absolutely. I have to tell you that if it was still available today, I'd go out and do it because I loved meeting the people. It wasn't so much the delivering of the papers, which actually was kind of a fun thing. It was more meeting all these different people and even having some great conversations with some of them along the way. So, there's no wasted time. There really isn't. And we don't waste time here on the program. At least I'd like to think we don't here on Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Laurie Walker. She's a contributing author to the compendium of stories entitled Mayhem to Miracles. And we're talking with her here on Tell Me Your Story. It's new paradigms for a new world. We're looking for those new ways of living. And I'm curious if Laurie Walker, who is our guest here on the program, if you've kind of felt that a little bit, that as much fun as we might be having, and as much fun as it is being in whatever age body you're in, but feeling 22, as I feel in my 61-year-old body, feeling 17, that there's something not right. And I'll tell you, this is the way I look at it. I think that I'm not alone. I am tired of surviving. I want to thrive. I want to thrive. Enough of this survival. What about you in terms of some of the changes maybe that you have made in your life, maybe with the help of Mary Queen, but also trusting that still small voice, listening to your intuition and saying, you know what, because I don't want to do that anymore. And many people who have been told to go home because of the pandemic, to work from home, aren't going back to work because they've realized I can work from home. I don't have to occupy an office or a space. I can stay home and do what I do. And then I'm closer to my family, my community, my neighbors, you know? So talk to us a little bit about your experiences in that regard.
This is really important to me because it's part of my story as far as opening up with the Reiki and other things. Is I was raised United Methodist,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not Catholic. It's a little less restrictive than Catholicism, but so my mom is very, very devout. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're just straight and narrow. We're doing this, and I would go to church and watch people and make evaluations. And the biggest thing that I found that I realized in my young brain was that, okay, everybody's at church and they're happy. They're everybody's good right here. But then the second you walk out of church, they're different. Nothing's changed. And I don't want to use the word hypocrite. I don't think they just knew anybody, like they didn't know how to change, but I'm picking up on this and I go, why do I have to listen to this person? I know they're older than me and they have more experience, but I don't like how they're not walking the walk. They're not talking the talk.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's acting good, and then 2 seconds you're out of church and the same things are happening. And I could never really understand that. So I fought my entire life with their values, my family and my family. Whew, I have a double life.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've found that there are certain things that I can't talk to them about. They don't get it, and they judge me and they think I'm woo and crazy, and I don't know. They don't understand. They don't get me. So I just stopped trying to make them understand, and I've created a separate Facebook profile for my book clubs and my professional items and so forth. But I feel like I could have been so much more than I am now. Like I feel like we just talked about wasted time, but I feel like I wish I would have walked into this sooner. Like I would have accepted it sooner. I feel like I would have been so much farther ahead. And all those years that I fought them and my feelings, I was miserable. And I just said, if there's an issue with my mom, I had been offered a position. This was 3 years ago, to be an assistant for a medium, and I was pretty excited about it. Yeah, we were going to travel across the country, and I was, and so I had to basically come out to my mom. Okay, and I thought she was going to understand, and it seemed to be going good. And then I get a phone. She left. She started thinking about it, and she called me and she said, "Well, I talked to your father, and he says you need to run. You need to run as fast as you can away from this." And then she showed up at my house a couple days later and told me that I'm sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. That I was sinning. Wait, give me a second. That I was sinning against God. She had scripture quoted for me. It was just, and I'm like, Mom, why can't there be more? Why? I have questions that nobody can answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that point, that's when I started my separate life.
Yeah.
Where she said, I can't sleep at night because I'm worried what you're doing. And I said, that's the point that I changed. And I said, if I have to choose between my happiness and yours, from now on, I'm going to choose mine, because when I listen to you, I'm miserable. You go on with your life and you're happy because I'm listening to you, but I'm not happy. So I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do what makes me happy.
That's a very interesting jumping off point here to talk about, because that is something that's extremely important and discussed quite a bit on this program. I kind of kid about this next section, but there is some seriousness to it, albeit when we're talking about happiness, there is nothing serious about happiness, although you need to take happiness seriously. I joke about it from the standpoint of the Declaration of Independence and how it talks about these inalienable rights. Now, there are only 3 listed, but apparently there are a whole bunch more. I wish they had listed more. But there's life. All right, well, we have life. You and I, we're sitting here. We're pretty much alive. We're having a good time. Liberty, not exactly sure how to define that other than, okay, I get to kind of do what I want, when I want, where I want, how I want, with who I want. And then there's happiness. Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. There's the pursuit of happiness. So it's like you get life and you get liberty, but you don't get happiness, but you do get to pursue it. Now, the question is it a carrot on the end of a string, on the end of a stick out in front of you that you will never reach? Or is it something that is possible to attain? And I'd like to believe the latter, that it is something that we can experience. And I would think that then you're really going to be considered nutsy Fagin if you're always happy. We've got many people in the state institution who are happy all the time. Let's talk a little bit about happiness and how you have found yours. And I'll add this one final thing that was shared with me not too long ago. Don't let them take your joy. And I will put joy and happiness in the same basket there. Share with us your experiences, your impressions, observations.
I just need a minute to collect it and think about this, put it into words. The Reiki training has helped so much, and my teachers, because we talk so much about intuition and limiting beliefs and listening to other people's values. And, there's a lot of talk about the chakras and the root chakra and the tribe and how much control they have over you and your opinions. They formed your entire thoughts, the way you think. And what's the one thing? You have to unlearn everything that you've been taught to find your happiness. Whenever you finally understand that you can be happy, you can understand people, but you don't have to be all up in their face about it. Like, hey, look at me, I'm happy, be like, I'm trying to find the words to explain it. Whenever you find peace, you want to shout it from the rooftops, but somebody told me once, the better way to think about it is people will notice. And then they'll come to you and they'll ask you, there's something different about you. What is it that you do? So that way you're not forcing it on someone. Someone sees it, then it's the invitation for them to ask you. And that's whenever you can open up a conversation and just learn beautiful things. I mean, the way I think about it is I have something to learn from every single person that I meet. If you really listen to them, they'll tell you something neat. Like even my 14-year-old great niece has said something and I'm like, wow, that's really profound, So I don't know if there's anything more I need to add to that.
Hey, if that wraps it up for you, then that wraps it up for me too. As far as what I asked you initially, and I appreciate your candor. I also appreciate, and in these interviews, I have experienced this on a number of occasions with the guests, the emotion. Now, one of the things that, at least for me, it's disconcerting is not the emotion, mind you, but, and I see this in other interviews, on other programs, on television, especially if it's a conversation that is very deep, it's very heartfelt, and the individual suddenly becomes emotional. And the disconcerting part isn't the emotion. I think that's beautiful. I love to see that. It's the apology. for being emotional. It's like, but that's part of who we are as emotions. When was the last time you apologized for laughing or being happy or joyful? Never. You've never apologized for being happy or laughing or joyful. But when you cry, when you get choked up, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, really? You don't need to apologize. It's a beautiful thing. And I share this with others as well. And again, please understand, this is not a criticism, Laurie, not at all. If you feel that that's what you need to do to, say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm getting all steamed up here, and what have you, that's fine. But it's an observation of mine. It's like, why are we apologizing for the emotions that we were given by God? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I have an answer for that.
Please tell me.
Yeah. When I was growing up, children should be seen and not heard. I was told that I'm too deep, I'm too sensitive, I'm too emotional, I don't know, I guess the black sheep, I'm the dreamer, I'm the poet. And the most important, the hardest one was, look, I'm doing it. Don't pay attention to Laurie. She's just trying to get attention.
Oh, geez.
And so I'm trapped in this world. I was just telling Mia the other day, I go, I don't know how to sometimes control all the emotion and the energy that I have. And so I was texting her. It was about the social media and going through all this because I really don't. I'm not used to putting myself out there, and it's uncomfortable at times. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm having a little emotional overload. And I said, I'm just an empath on steroids. But there's another side of me, the business side is, all of my life I've been in jobs where everything is about speed, accuracy, results. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very interesting mix that I have going on. Yeah. I go like a train, and then there's this empath side that I have to deal with. So sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. I with my wife, my present wife, we three of us, two gentlemen who lived on the property with us, we're helping to build her greenhouse. She had purchased this greenhouse, and we were building it out in the backyard where we live. And when we were finished, she came out and she saw it, and she went back in the house, and I followed her, and the two guys were still outside. And we got in the house and we got into the kitchen, and she started to cry and wrapped her arms around my neck. And she says, "Don't worry, these are tears of joy," And I said, okay. I don't tell her, even if they're not tears of joy, I don't tell her, shh, no, don't cry. Don't cry. It's okay. No, I let her cry. I'm not going to stop her from doing that, from releasing that particular energy, whether it's sadness or happiness, because we don't stop people from laughing unless, of course, they're laughing at us because of, cut it out. I was watching one of these gangster movies where this one guy, he was a little hair trigger, and he fell. He fell on the ice in New Jersey. He fell on the ice and he hurt his back. And one of the guys laughed at him, and he was madder. And now the guy tried to help him up. Well, later on in the movie, and it probably was like a couple of days later in the story, the guy who fell killed the guy who laughed at him. Yeah, because he laughed at him. It's like, are you serious? Come on. But I mean, that's an extreme. This is fascinating conversation that we're having here with Laurie Walker here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and this is New Paradigms for a New World. And we are trying to create a new world through Tell Me Your Story. We're trying to change the world. Laurie, would you think, Laurie Walker, who is our guest here on the program, contributing author to Mayhem To Miracles, published by Sacred Stories Publishing, sacredstoriespublishing.com, do you feel as though that's part of your job, your vocation, your reason for being is to change the world?
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it anymore. Now I'm putting it on you.
All right, look, I'm gonna tie a couple of things together. You're gonna like how I do this. I'm gonna try to do it, I should say. And it's a story. So whenever I looked up one of your shows to just get a feel for, what kind of things you're going to ask me or whatever. There was the first interview that came up was with an author. Her name is Deneen Joyner.
Ah, okay.
Wait till you hear this. Okay, so I told you that me and I, met at the Energy Connection, and she mentioned a book to me, and she said, this book is called Soul Wounds and Sacred Revelations. She said, I saw this woman in Pittsburgh, and she goes, her energy's off the charts. And it was in probably like July. And so I wrote it down, and I didn't really think about it. So Christmas rolled around, and my son asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And I said, you know what? I want this book. So I get the book and I start reading it on Christmas Day, and I am so into it. I'm like, and the whole time I'm going, I would love to meet this woman. Yeah, right, Laurie. Like, you're gonna meet this woman, sure. But I go, I really want to meet her. I finished it a week later on New Year's Day, and I get to the end of the credits, and she said I could not have done this without my editor, Ms. Gina Mazza. And I went, oh my gosh, I have a chance. I might be able to meet this woman. So I messaged Gina, and she goes, oh yeah, I'd love to introduce you to Deneen. So a couple of things for Deneen, she agreed to meet me in person. So literally Wednesday to Wednesday to Wednesday, I get the book, I finish the book. A week later, I'm meeting her at Panera.
Oh,
it was unbelievable. Okay. So there's some of the other things that I'm involved with, my book club Pittsburgh and my printing world is I know a woman, her name is Anna Marie Geyer, and she does it's called the Author Zone, where authors can submit their books and they can win an award. So I asked Deneen, I was like, hey, let's get in touch. And so Deneen submitted her book and won. She's a winner in the Author Zone. And there were a couple of things. We did a group reading with Deneen and a couple of my teachers, Mia being one of them. So there was opportunities and for Deneen and I. So, and then COVID hit, and Deneen and I stayed in touch. We were just like, oh, hey, it's fun. Now, flipping the story back to me and Mia with Guided by Grace. So it was a Saturday afternoon, and Mia just texts me out of the blue, and she goes, I have an idea, but I need your help. And I said, okay. She goes, how about starting a virtual book club? I go, I'm in. I mean, I was like, yes, let's do this, right? And I go, and within 30 seconds, I go, I have a name for it. It doesn't have to be this. I said, but let's call it Guided by Grace. And I just absolutely love it, because that's literally what's happening with us. We have no idea. We're just winging it. I wouldn't say winging it as we go, but it's unfolding as we go. So basically, it was so crazy that things were happening with Mayhem To Miracles at the same time as our book club stuff. And back to Guided by Grace, when we were picking the books, I said, oh man, the first book has to be Deneen. I mean, that's how we met and the stories behind it. So Deneen is our first guest. And then in March, we have Gina Mazza will be our second guest. In July of next year, Mayhem To Miracles will be our featured selection, and Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos has agreed to be on our Zoom meeting. So we have a gentleman from the United Kingdom. He wrote a book called Chasing Rainbows. And then our last guest, just for 2022, her name is Kim Chesney, and she wrote a book called Radical Intuition, and she's from Pittsburgh as well. So we have this wonderful book club, but we do fun stuff on it too. It's interactive. We have motivational Mia Mondays, meditations with Mia. We're going to start we call it More with Mia meetings, where we meet every other month just to talk about books or the next book or whatever. So there's a lot of things going on. So we just changed the name yesterday to Guided by Grace Book Club, and more.
Mm.
So we just want to, engage people. People out there looking for these kind of things, and we just want to, I don't know, help people do what we can. So the point was, do I think I can change the world? No, but I'm going to do something. And in Deneen's book, she talks about finding your divine assignment, your holy assignment.
Oh, I like it.
That's what I feel like I'm doing. This is my place in all this, because I'm not a medium. I don't think I'm special, but I have organizational skills. I have some contacts, and I call it like I'm the student producer of the high school play. Like I'm the behind the scenes person, but I know a little bit. But so, and Mia and I are perfect together. We call it peanut butter and jelly, because she will confess it. She is a little bit unorganized. And I am over here going, we need to do this. So it's perfect. It's a perfect balance.
And the biggest key that I get this from you, the biggest part of this whole endeavor, you're having fun with it.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. We and I had a planning meeting, and we said, what if this thing fails? Like, what if it doesn't even take off? And she looks at me and she goes, then it's going to be me and you on a Zoom meeting with 1,000 bookmarks, and we're going to have fun. Because my printing company donated, we made 1,000 promotional items for bookmarks. So they're right here. They're super cute.
Oh, very cool.
Instead of a business card, yeah. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's very exciting, the endeavors that you and me are taking on, and I'm so grateful for the fact that you shared your story about Mary Queen in Mayhem to Miracles, and that you've shared it here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here on the program, and Laurie Walker is my guest here on the program, and she's got a lot of great things going on in her life and a lot of great people in her life. One of the things that I want to touch on real quickly here before we have to wrap up the program is how you have your observations, your perceptions of how you have drawn into your life the people who have helped you directly or indirectly to transform your life, to place you, in a manner of speaking, right here, right now, where you and I are having this wonderful conversation.
It's interesting that you say that, because I never knew what it was. Like, I either click with people or I don't. Most people tell me I'm too much. Yeah, but I know when to control it. But if I like you and we're in it off, it's that part clicks. But Mary is the first one to ever say this to me, and later on it makes more sense after go through like the classes that I've taken. It was so innocent. She said, here comes the emotion. Nobody makes me feel the way that you do. I have all these empath eyes or whatever, but I'm super funny too. Like, I'm not trying to do my own word, but when all the business and all the metaphysical stuff fades away, there's a lot of humor. I'll keep you laughing. I can guarantee that. But so we had some good times, with that.
Well, I would say that laughter can also be a part of metaphysics. Being a metaphysician myself and studying the things that I have over the last 40 plus years, since I was about 17, when I began what I then called my search. Still remember someone saying to me at the Christian radio station, "Oh, Richard, I understand you're on your search, but once you find Jesus, your search is over." And it was like, I knew that wasn't true. So I immediately responded, no, actually, when I find Jesus, my search has just begun. And it continues to this day. And I'll be searching till the day I choose to leave this body and go on to whatever the next level is, or whatever the next role is. And that's kind of how I look at it. and I'll do everything I can between now and the time that my ticket says is departure time for you. You go home now. We're closed. You just, and at the same time, matter of fact, as of this conversation, I just recently returned from a train trip from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles, where I spent, it seemed like 3 days. It kind of was. I left on a Friday morning and came back on a Sunday afternoon. I was fortunate to be able to go to one of my favorite games, a baseball game, where I got to see an incredible ball game with some friends that I was actually kind of making, but also a good friend of mine who I was visiting. Got to meet with a bunch of people on a project that we're working on. We'll be sharing with our folks very soon. And then jumped on the train on Sunday morning to come home Sunday afternoon. And it was just, they always go by too fast. And I knew that on Friday morning as I'm leaving the train station in Santa Barbara going, yeah, I'll be home before I know it. But I'll tell you what, I won't think about that. I'll just stay in the moment as I move forward and just thoroughly enjoy it. And I did. And it was great. It was absolutely great. So these are wonderful experiences that we're having. And I do believe that there is more to this life than this life. I also believe that this life is not an accident. It doesn't make any sense that this is all there is and then lights out. Now, if it is and lights out, I'm never going to know because the lights will be out. But it's like, why would whoever created all of this, decoupage, why would they go to all this trouble? And then, that's all, when their bodies wear out, then that's all there is. It's over, I'm not willing to accept that. And there's something inside of me that says my life has meaning. How about you? Do you get that same sense that, you can't, that's inescapable for you, that, no, I've got to be doing this because my life has meaning and I'm going to leave this place a better place than when I got here?
Wow. Like as a legacy. Well, before I really accepted everything and I was still struggling and just reading on my own, before I found my tribe, I should say, at the Energy Connection, even though I have this relationship with my family that, they don't get me here, I call myself the self-appointed family historian. So I've created, because I'm in printing, for example, I created my grandmother's, she had a photo album from 1926. And what I did is I scanned all the pictures and I had it recreated. And I got in touch with all of my cousins and my aunts, some in California, some in Pennsylvania, all over the country. And I touched, and Richard, when I say this, I'm not saying I'm great, look at me. This is what I feel, is I touched over 89 people. And now they have copies of their grandmother's, her memories, her life, our story.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to do things like that. So my legacy before this was to my family and to do as many projects as I could for them so that they would have the memories. But now with Guided by Grace and anything else that could potentially happen, I mean, why not? The sky's the limit. And why, if I think that there's a heaven and it's going to work out that way, I'm going to spend my whole life happy thinking of that joyous moment. Mm-hmm. Instead of going, well, that's all there is. Too bad we won't see each other. Yeah. I choose to live my life with hope and maybe some little bit of knowledge, that, hey, it's waiting for me. There's more. There's definitely more.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talk about here, and that there is always more, and that we always have choices. I don't care what your situation is. You always, always, always have a choice. And sometimes that choice is to do nothing. And that's okay. If that's what, but at least make a choice. That's one of the first steps to life that I write about in my book, Choices. The first step is make a choice. Choose something, even if it is to choose nothing. You're still choosing, but you are in control. There's a lot we're not in control of, but our choices certainly are one of them. I loved what one gentleman said to me. We were talking about how where we are today is based upon all of the choices that we've made up to this point, which is true. And of course, where we will be tomorrow, in the next year, in the next decade, will be because of all of the choices we'll make between now and then. But he threw in another little twist, which I really, really liked. He says, yes, that's true. However, think about this. All of the choices that you are going to make from this point forward are going to be based upon your perception of what you think your future will be or will look like. If you think it's going to be Armageddon, guess what? All of your choices are going to be based upon maybe digging a hole in the ground, lining it with concrete, and storing up food and clothing and all of this kind of stuff, which, hey, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying those are the choices that you are going to make. Whereas if you think that, hey, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, then your choices are going to be made based upon that whole thing. My future, I got a long way to go. I have to outlive my great grandmother. She lived to be 100. I got 40 plus years to go, and I'm looking more at the plus than I am the 40. And if tomorrow is my day, I'm good with that. Not happy with it because there's so much more I want to do. I got lots of plans, and of course, God's laughing. But I'm okay. I'm okay if that's it for this lifetime. How about you? Are you ready? I mean, if you, as the term goes, if you were called home, are you ready to go?
I don't want to yet. There's more I'm supposed to do.
I know. I understand that.
I think I would be, if I didn't have a choice and it were my time. I think it's going to be beautiful. I think that there's it's like a parallel universe or parallel world to our Earth world, and that we're going to see our loved ones, and we're going to. My vision. Look, it might be crazy, but this is what I think. I think we go to heaven, we're going to have jobs. We're not going to just sit around on clouds or whatever. I mean, we're meant to do things and then send those thoughts down and share them with people on Earth. I call them infused thoughts. I know it's a crazy concept. I read it somewhere, but
hey, there's nothing crazy.
If that's what I want to believe,
yeah.
then that, and it makes me happy. Why not?
And I support you in that. And I do not criticize that at all. Everybody, it's like when people have these different experiences, it's like, okay, that's interesting. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just curious as to, and I might ask some more questions. I learned very early on not to judge someone else's experience. That experience has now transformed them into someone else, whether it was, whether it was alien abduction, whether it was a supernatural or paranormal experience, and they truly believe that this is what happened. Who am I to question that? I wasn't there. I didn't experience it. I would hope that the same consideration will be made if I should have some of those experiences. Although, if it's alien abduction, I'm going to say, take me, please. Take me. I've had about all I can stand, and I can stands no more, of the craziness and quite honestly, sometimes the stupidity and the ignorance and the unwillingness to consider other possibilities that is in the minds and the hearts of so many people around the world, that they have to control other human beings. They have to control animals. And I will have to tell you that my learning about how to live with animals, dogs and cats in particular, has really taught me a lot in that regard, because I no longer, not that I actually did this, pardon me, not that I actually did this, but it is not my job to get my dog to behave. All right. That is not my job. My job is to understand why my dog is behaving the way that he is.
Wow, that's
to
perfect.
understand why. And the same thing can be said for human beings. You know, I need to understand why, you tear up and why you laugh and all of those things. And appreciate and accept you for who you are, as I appreciate and accept my dog for who he is, and our cats. My surprise kitty, Ryan, he likes to come over and lay on my arm, and then times he'll put his paws on my arm, but he's got his claws out. Now he's not doing anything in particular, but that's just the way he is, right? So I don't get angry with him. He can't help it. It's just the way he is. So I'll just lift his paw and I'll move it over, and he'll put it back and I'll move it over. We'll play the little game, but not his fault. It's just what he does. And he wants to be close to me because he loves me and he loves the connection. And I love the connection too. So I think that's enough said about that. Do you have animals?
No, I don't have any. I had a dog once. That's okay. I like my freedom. Just take off and do whatever I want, whenever I want. So
I hear you. Taking advantage of that liberty, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm 22. Remember, I got things to do.
I hear you. 22. You're a spring chicken, and you're just having a great time in your life, sharing the story of Mary Queen in the book entitled Mayhem to Miracles, published by Sacred Stories Publishing. SacredStoriesPublishing.com is the website. Is there an email address we might give out so folks can get in touch with you?
They could use Guided by Grace Book Club at gmail.com.
All right. Guided by Grace Book Club at gmail.com, folks. All right. And you'll see that over her head in the video if you're watching on YouTube, so that people can get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing, and maybe connect with you and find ways of maybe breaking out of their shell as well, to say, hey, you can say I'm wacky and crazy and nuts and all that stuff. And all of that is true. And I own it. I don't have a problem with that, because that's who I am, and I'm going to share that with you. If you want it, it's yours. If you don't, then I'll move on to the next person and I'll share it with them. And there'll be people that will appreciate who you are and the way you are and the fact that you're out there. And we're thankful that you're out here with us today.
Richard, I am so happy. I told you at the beginning I was a little nervous, but as we were doing the interview, I thought to myself that the line about meet as strangers, leave as friends. So I like that. I just appreciate our conversation. It was really, really beautiful and very comfortable.
Well, that's what we try to do. We want people to be comfortable. The next hour is really going to get tough because we're going to ask you really hard questions. I hope you've boned up on your nuclear physics as well as your geography and Uruguayan history. That's where it really gets tough, but that's for the next hour. But before we even get to that next hour, I want to remind you you're listening to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here on the program, as we bring you basically choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. As our guest, Laurie Walker has done here on the program. She's a contributing author to the book Mayhem to Miracles, published by sacredstoriespublishing.com is the website. You can go and get a copy for yourself. We want to ask you three final questions. And before I do, I want to thank you so much for giving us this time and your story, and especially sharing with us about Mia and Mary Queen. So we really do appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I couldn't believe when I got your email that I was one of the 12. So I'm thrilled. Thank you.
You are quite welcome, and thank you. I'd like to also let our listeners know that we are here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. That's a special edition of Tell Me Your Story. We also broadcast those programs live, streamed at richarddugan.com. Our podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, also on iHeart and Amazon Music and many others. Hope you'll subscribe. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch these interviews. YouTube channel is Tell Me Your Story or Richard Dugan, whichever you'll find us. And we hope that you'll subscribe to those. If you'd like to support us financially, we would be ever so grateful for any financial support you can give us. And you just go to PayPal. It's there for your security as well as ours. I've been using it for years. I actually love the fact that I like to call them the middleman that keeps a record of everything. So it's really, really kind of nice. And just put in into the field when it says send to my email address, richard@richarddugan.com, and give what you can if you can. We'll take energetic support as well. We also ask that you participate in the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and spend that time going within, listening to that still small voice, and just kind of relax and be calm, get rejuvenated and re-energized, listen to the inspiration, the encouragement, and we hope that you'll even take, one of my guests said, just 60 seconds, 1 minute, just start there. Just start there, even with just a real quick meditation, not while you're driving, okay? Just, but find a place where you can do that. We hope that you will do that. So as we wrap up our program here on Tell Me Your Story, we always ask our guests three final questions, as we will here today too. And the first of those three is, who is Laurie Walker?
I should have done my homework and prepared for this question. I can give you some crazy answer. Laurie is an empath and a funny girl and just a go-getter too. All in the same. All in the same ball of energy. I love my family. I love my son. I just wanted, I don't know, help somebody out there. I can say that the end of my book, the last paragraph is, I made it through the storm. Wait, let me get my book because I'm nervous.
That's all right. Started the interview nervous.
Yeah.
Ending the interview a little nervous, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I made it through the storm. Someday, I hope I can provide comfort to someone on their darkest day, because I've been there and someone did it for me.
Beautiful.
That's Laurie Walker.
Absolutely beautiful. What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you're doing now?
It's getting redundant, helping people, changing people, making a difference, providing information, sharing opportunities, just for people to be happy. If I'm talking to someone, I say, what my mind goes, what is the nicest thing I can say to this person right now? And then I'll say it innocently, and I watch them light up. Because everybody's so negative. You're so quick to believe the negative. When somebody tells you something nice, I love watching people light up, and it's genuine. You have to be genuine, because they're going to remember that. They're going to say, "Oh, hey, Laurie said that," and I'm going to believe her because it's nice.
And finally, risking redundancy. What is your life's purpose?
To show people love in the way that I show it. And, my love language is definitely words, probably both giving and receiving. So, and then probably acts of service. So I try and show people, I try and give them a memory, or just something to remember that's beautiful.
Well, Laurie Walker, thank you again for joining us on the program. We greatly appreciate your time and energy. And we thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to love.